Hello guys, this is part 13 of edu.net video series. In this video, we will discuss use of SQL Command Builder class with an example. We will be using the table TBL students in this demo. Here is the SQL script. Create and populate this table with some sample data. The first step here is to design a web form that looks like this. To speed things up, I have already implemented the required HTML, so let's copy this and flip over to Visual Studio. So here I have a blank ASP.NET web form application. So let's open up this web form.axpx first. Let's set the style attribute of div tag and set font family to Arial. So instead of that, we will paste the copied stuff here that we have copied from Notepad. Now let's select the entire HTML, Control A, and then press Control K and D. To format it, and this HTML is very straightforward. So if you look at the user interface here, it has got one, two, three, four, 5 rows within a table. So here I have got a table where the border is set to 1. Here the border is set to 1. And within the table, we have the first row here. And notice that within the first row, we have got 2 TDs. And within the first TD, we have this literal text student ID. And then a text box control and a button control. And that is what we see in the user interface here. And within the second TR, we have 2 TDs. In the second tier, we have 2 TDs. In the first TD, we have the literal text name and then a text box control. And that is what we exactly see within the second tier. Here. Very straightforward HTML, and within the third tier we have this literal text gender and then a drop down list. Drop down list control, because a drop down list would make more sense to display something like gender, and this gender drop down list has got 3 list item. Basically the first list item is a prompt to the user to select the gender, and the second list item is male, and third list item is female. And then within the fourth tier we have this literal text total marks, and this and then the text box control and final tier. And in the final tier we have look at the TD width. There is 1 TD, but that width of 1 TD is spanning across the width of the 2 TDs. And to achieve that, we are using call spans equals to 2 on that one TD, and within this TD we have button control and label control. This one. We use the label control to display status information, like if we click update button, one row updated. Okay, so we have the required user interface, very straightforward HTML. Now basically when we enter a student ID, for example, here we have entered one, and then once we click the load button, we want to load that uh, student record from the database table, database table, and display that information in the respective control. Okay, so let's go ahead and double click at this button control. Double click at this button control to generate the click event handler. We are going to write some edu.NET code here. We need three namespaces: system.data, SQL client, system dot configuration, and within the web.config file I have already included a connection string. Look at the name of the connection string. Within the web config file we have a connection strings name ultimate, and this connection string is pointing to an installations of SQL Server on my local machine. Okay, so let's read this connection string value within code behind file in the button click event handler. So string connection string connection string what is the name of the connection string? Ultimate. So string connection string equals, we are going to make use of connection configuration manager class, and we are going to use the connection string configuration manager class dot connection strings. What is the name of our connection string? Ultimate. Dot connection string connection should give us the connection string that is there within the web.config file. The next step is basically create a SQL connection object, and to create a SQL connection object we need the connection string. So let's pass it to the constructor of that class. Means we need to create a SQL connection. object. And to create a SQL connection object, we need connection string. So connection is the name of the object. New SQL connection. So we pass connection string here. So we have passed the connection string to the constructor of that class SQL connection. Now let's go ahead and create a SQL data adapter object. Now to create a SQL data adapter object, I'm going to make use of this constructor. SQL data adapter. So I'm going to make use of this constructor which take two parameters, the select command, that is our select query, select command, that is our select query, and the SQL connection object. So select query is being passed as a string. So first let's prepare our select query. We need to prepare our select query first. String SQL query. So we need to prepare first our select query. Let's call it SQL query. This is a SQL query. Now we are going to load one record at a time. So we need to have a where clause. So query is going to be something like select star from TBL student. Select star from TBL student. TBL student. So select star from table student from TBL table, where ID is equal to where ID is equal to and where we are going to get the ID from. We are going to get it from the particular text box, from that box on the UI. And if you look at the ID on the web form, is called txt student ID. txt student ID. So copy it and paste it here, and then the text property. of the respective test box. So here we have the SQL query. We have the SQL query here. So now let's pass it to the data adapter object, and the second parameter is the connection object. So we will copy this as a first parameter to the SQL data adapter object, and then the second parameter is connection. Okay, and then now let's go ahead and create a dataset object. Call it DS, and then I'm going to invoke a fill method of the data adapter object. So what is this method is going to do? It is going to go to the database using this connection, using this connection object, SQL connection, execute this query, retrieve the data, and then fill that data within the data set. And when it is going to fill the data within the data set, we can specify a table name within the data set. DA dot what is going on? DA dot fill method data set, comma, the name of the table student, students, so at this point we have this respective student record within the data set. Now I'm going to store the SQL query and the data set, SQL query and the data set in a view state variable. In a bit we will understand why we are doing it. So let's use a view state variable, and let's call the key as SQL underscore query. This is the key SQL underscore query, and let's store the SQL query. Store the SQL query. Here it is to be DA. And in a similar fashion, we also want to store the data set. So let's give it a key data set. And what is the dataset's instance? DS. So let's go ahead and store it. Okay, now for example, if I enter student ID 501 and then click load button, we don't have that student record there. So if the student record is not there, then we want to display status information here, student ID with 501. Here we will have to display the information here, student ID with 501 is not found. So basically we need to check if a student record exists within the data set, and keep in mind we are going to retrieve only one record from the database, which means this data set is ever going to have only one record. Means this data set is ever going to have only one record. But now let's go ahead and check ds.table. Means we will use the if condition. ds.table. What is the name of the table within the data set? The name of the table is student. And let's use the count property. It is called student. So within the data set, find the table and then find the rows, and let's use the count property. So this is going to give us the total number of rows within that table within the data set. If it is greater than 0, then we have a student record within the data set, in which case we are going to retrieve that student record values and then populate these control. Okay, here if the control is not greater than 0, then what we are going to do, we are going to display a message stating student record is not found. So here we will write, first of all, if student record is not found, then we will else loop student record is not found using this label. Okay, so lbl status dot text is equal to no student record with RT is equal to and the label is called label status. Let's set the text to no student record with the ID equal to whatever the ID that we have entered within the text box. Copy this again. Go back here. .txt. Okay. If there is a row within the dataset, then what we want to do? We want to retrieve the information from that row. So first we need to retrieve the row itself. So I'm going to copy this. Copy this. So I'm going to copy this row of. I'm going to use the indexer. This is the indexer. I'm going to use the indexer. We know that there is going to be only one row, so get that one row that is present at the index 0. Only one row that is present at the index 0. And look at this. This is going to return us a data row back. So I'm going to store that in a variable of type data row. Let's call it dr. Let's call it dr. And now what we need to do, so first we need to display name within a name text box. And how do we get access to the name? Use the column name. Txt student name dot text is equal to dr. The column name is name dot toString. Dr of name should give us the name value from that data row. And we want to store that in this text box student txt student name dot text. In a similar fashion, we want to store total marks as well. So text, what is the name of the total? What is the name of the text box? There it is called text total marks dot text equal dot text equal dr. The column name is total marks dot toString. Column name is total mark. We have specified it here. And then we need a gender as well. And gender, we are actually using a drop-down list. We are using actually a drop-down list. So and the idea of the drop-down list is ddl gender dot selected value. ddl gender dot selected value is equal to dr. Column name is gender dot toString Okay, so at this point we should be able to retract the student record and display that on the web form. And one more thing that I want to do, if the student's record is not found, I want to set basically the color of the label to red. So for color is going to be system dot drawing dot color red. LBL status dot for color is equal to system dot drawing dot color dot red. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this now. So within the database table, we only have student record from 1 to 10. Let's enter maybe student ID 60, which does not exist. Click load, look at that no student record. Okay. We have not generated the update click event handler, so we need to remove this piece of line here. Now close it once again and rerun it, save it and run it. So we will enter student ID 60, which does not exist. Click load button 60, click load button. Okay, copy this, go back here and paste it here. Close it once again and rerun it by saving it. So we will enter 60 here, load button. Look at that, no student record with ID 60. Okay, on the other hand, if we enter 1 and click load, look at that. Look at that, and the data is retrieved and displayed. And at this point, what happened behind the scene, we also store this SQL query that we use in a view state. In a view state variable, and the data set also in the view state variable. Now once we retrieve the data, we can make the changes to the data, and then once I click the update button, we want to update the database table. Okay, so let's double click the update button to generate the click event handler. Now first step here is to load the connection string from the web dot config file, create the SQL connection object. So let's copy the that from there and paste it within that update button click event handler. Copy that, paste it here. Now I am going to create a SQL data adapter object once again, because once we click the update button, what should happen? We should update the database table. I'm going to use SQL data adapter for that. Okay, so SQL data adapter DA equals SQL data adapter DA equals new SQL data adapter Now, when we create an instance of SQL data adapter, we can specify the select command. Now, remember when we were loading the data, this is what is the query that we use to load data. This is what the query that we use to load data, and that query we stored in the view state variable here. So let's go ahead and retrieve that select query. Now you may be wondering, we are not selecting data here. Why? We are using select query. We will understand that in just a bit. Okay, so here the first parameter is going to be query in a string format, and we are going to retrieve that from the view state variable, and view state is going to return that as an object type. So view state and name of the query is SQL underscore query. So view state is going to return that as an object type. So we need to typecast it to string. STATE. Spelling is right, then what is happening here? So copy it from here. Okay. You typecast it to string, and then the second parameter is the connection object. So let's pass that con. Okay, this is the mistake which we are making here. And the second parameter is C1. So now look at this. I'm not going to write the update query by hand. I am going to make use of the update query. I am going to the update query uh, update query auto generate. I want to make the update query auto generated, and to do that I am going to make use of SQL command builder class. So what is the use? So what is the use of SQL command builder class? This class automatically generates, insert, update, and delete SQL statement based on the select statement for a given single table. Okay, so here we are working with the with one table, that is table students, and we have specified the select query for that table, which is nothing but select star from table student where ID is equal to whatever ID. Okay, so based on this select statement, the select command builder class is going to generate insert, update, and delete statement for us. SQL.adapter. Okay, based on this SQL command builder is going to generate insert, update, and delete statement for us, and let's see how it does. Okay, so we have SQL data adapter object, and that adapter object knows the C is select query. That adapter object knows the select query which we have retrieved from the view state. Okay, the SQL command builder, so I'm going to pass that as an argument to the constructor. So look at, there are two overloaded version, means SQL command builder class, name it as builder, is equal to, and pass your DA. So basically there are two arguments, as you can see here. So at this point, SQL command builder object knows the select query. We give it a DA. So at this point, the SQL command builder object knows the select query, because look at this data adapter object, and we are passing that data adapter object DA to the SQL command builder. We have passed this to this SQL command builder, and the SQL command builder is going to examine the select query, and then based on that it is going to automatically generate, insert, update, and delete select statement for us. Okay, so at this point SQL command builder should have generated the insert, update, and delete statements. Okay, so now no one can make any changes that we want, and once we click update, we want to process the changes back to the database table. Okay, now what we are going to do is we first need to retrieve those values and store them within the data set, so that when we say data adapter dot update, when we say data adapter dot update, data set object, basically we can specify the data set object, and within that data set, so basically we don't have the data set yet. Where is the data set present? We have stored that data set within the view state. Okay, we have stored the data set within the view state here, means here. So we don't have any data set here. So we need to retrieve that from the view state. Okay, so let's go ahead and retrieve that data set from view state. So let's typecast this to the to be of data set. So here we will write data set ds view state. Data set and typecast is to data set. Okay, so we want update the table, this select this table, update this table, select star from tbl student from data that is present within the data set, that present within the data set. So within this data set there is another parameter that we can specify the table name there. Table name, there is a table called student. So take the data from this table and then update the table, this table, update this table. That is what this update does. But then if we run this code as it is not going to do any update, because when we make change here, that will automatically update it. So first let's go ahead and make the changes to the data set itself. Okay, so first of all let's check if there are any rows at all within the data set. So ds dot tables of what is the name of the table. So check ds dot tables, what is the name of the table? Students dot row dot count dot row dot count. So if the rows count is greater than 0, because there should be a row to update within the data set. So when we load the data, what is happening? We load that data into the data set as well, and we stored it in the very view state. And now we are retrieving that row from the data set, and then whatever changes we make in the UI, we are going to apply that to the data set. And then once we call the update method, uh, you know, the data adapter is going to use the data that we have changed within the data set and update the underlying database table. Okay, so first of all, if the row count is greater than 0, then we are basically going to say data row dr equals. Let's copy this piece of code. Means we directly type the coding from here for the update and paste it here in this block. So here data row dr is equal to ds dot table student dot row 0. This give us a row within the data set. So now let's apply the changes to the data set table. So dr of name, the student text box, student id text box. Similarly, we want to update gender, and gender is coming from the drop down list, and the id of the drop down list is ddl gender selected value, and we want to update total marks as well, and that is going to come from txt total marks table. Okay, so at this point we have updated the data set. Now if the rows count is not greater than 0, then what does that mean? There are no rows present within the data set. In that case, we want to print a message stating label status dot, or we will do that in later point. Okay, if the count is greater than 0, then go ahead and update that rows that are present at the position 0. Okay, and then look at this, we are calling da dot update and da dot update, and look at that the return type of this update method. What is the returning? What is it returning back? It is returning an integer back. Basically the number of rows that are updated. In our case, it is going to either 1 or 0. Okay, so let's call it int rows. So let's call it int rows updated is equal to da dot update. And if rows update is greater than 0, then we know for sure a row has been updated, in which case we want to set the fore color of the label to green, and then we want to set the text to how many rows updated, and where do we get that number from this variable rows updated. So again we go to the notepad and copy this full coding here. Let's convert that to string. We have converted it to string. we are going to append this text. We are append this text. Okay, now if it is not greater than 0, then we know that no row is updated, in which case we want to set the color red to red, and we want to display this message no row updated. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, see if it works as expected. So let's enter, for example, 501. So let's enter 501. 501 does not exist. So when we say load, no student record with ID 501. Now let's try to update this and see what happens. Look at that. No row is updated. On the other hand, let's enter valid record number 3. Click load. So we have this student record. Let's change the gender of the student from male to female. And let's update the, and that, look at that, one row updated. You know, at your underline table for student record 3, look at that, it did not update it properly. It is updated. Now let's enter student ID 3. Name will be okay. Now let's update him to male and let's set the total marks 1000. Click update. Okay, so it works as expected. So basically what is SQL command builder class? The SQL command builder class is used to automatically generate, insert, update, and delete the SQL statement based on the select statement for a single table. Okay, so basically here, if you look at this update click event handler, update click event handler, we did not specify the update statement at all. Okay, so who is generating that update statement for us? The SQL command builder class. And how it is going to how it is it doing that based on the select statement that we specified. Okay, and for this transact SQL and for the transact SQL statement to be auto generated by the SQL command builder class, there are basically two steps. Step one, we create the SQL data adapter object and specify the select query. Okay, now here we are doing that in two steps. First we create the SQL data adapter object, and then we are using the select command property, basically to create a command SQL command and then specify our select query. In our case, we have done that in just one line. Here we are doing in two lines, but in our case, we have done it in one line. SQL data adapter D is equal to this one. So we can do it even in this way. First create your SQL data adapter object and then use the select command property to specify your select query and the connection object. Basically here we are doing it in one line, so but let's do it in two lines. So here I am simply going to say data adapter, means instead of this line we will use these four lines. Okay, copy them and go back to and paste them here. Okay, so here I'm going simply going to set SQL data adapter D is equal to new SQL data adapter, and then data adapter and the data adapter dot select command equals, we need to create a new instance of SQL command, and the SQL command object. So where are we going to get the query from? Our view state variable. So view state of SQL query here, and we need to typecast that to string. We have typecasted it to string, and then specify the connection object. We have done this. The application should still work in the same way. Okay, and then next step is to basically associate the data adapter object with SQL command builder. Again, you can do that either in two lines or you can do that in one line, like we how we have done it before. Or I can specify you say SQL command builder and builder dot data adapter equals DA. Okay, so it should still work in the same way. Let's quickly run this and give it quick test. If you see the data adapter dot select command, okay, but here we are giving it a DA. Builder dot data adapter. So need to close it. And run this. So let's enter to load this. Let's change that to Nicholas 1. Enter 2. Load this. Change this to Nicholas 1. Mail. Change that to 790. Click update. Here you can see Pam Nicholas, the old record 760. Now click 790. Okay, so basically, this is a very common interview question. This is a very common interview question as well. What is SQL command builder class? Okay, so basically SQL command builder class automatically generate, insert, update, and delete the statement based on the select statement for a single table. And for the SQL command builder to automatically generate transact SQL statement, there are two steps. Step one, create your step one. Create your SQL data adapter object and specify your select query. And step 2, associate this SQL data adapter object with a command builder class, and then on the command builder class is going to auto generate the insert, update, and delete statement for us. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a nice great day.